Hiya. So it happened. Me and Johnny Lawrence, personal trainer and strength coach, got together. We had a great discussion. Took about I think it was about an hour and 17 minutes. Couldn't shut ourselves up, answering questions. But unfortunately, well, there's good news and bad news. Good news is we had a really good chat about training, mindset, and rehab ideas, which covered some of the questions that were sent in. I think we got a total of about 8 or 9 questions sent in. Really good questions. We had a discussion about the first question, and that kind of went down a lot of rabbit holes, and it did cover some of the other questions, but it didn't directly answer them. But we are keen to answer them all because they were such good questions. So, just a word of warning, if you're looking at this specifically for some of the answers to the questions you sent in, it may not be in them in this particular one, but it will be in following ones. So we hope to do a few more and see how many questions we get through in total. So hopefully not too disappointed. It was a great chat. We had a good laugh, and yeah, we'll go from there. It starts off with myself and Johnny just discussing how we got in the game. Hope you enjoy it. So cool. All right, John. So we're going to introduce ourselves to the people. So I think, as I said to you, we were chatting on before we come on, and we had a bunch of questions that have been sent in. Really cool questions that hopefully we'll both get a stab at answering. See how many we get through in the hour, and go from there. But I think first of all, it'd be good to see how both of us maybe got into the game. Starting about how it all started and why you ended up where you are now, and then we'll go from there and start answering some questions.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Cool. So how did it all start?
Well, for me, I started in a sport, wrestling, and over time, with any sport, you start to rack up a few injuries and things. But if opportunities are there, you kind of ignore them, which I would never advise. But as an athlete at the time, that's what I did. And then I got an appendix rupture, which stopped everything where it was. And the injuries I had were nagging back injuries. So when I had an appendix rupture and an appendix operation, the two weren't great, to be honest. I had a bad back problems, and then obviously had been cut through the front. Anyway, that put an end to my wrestling. And I went to get rehab and got the worst rehab I'd ever been given. It was shocking. Having been, had an operation on my stomach, one of the first things the chap asked me to do was lie on the floor and try and do a sit-up without using my legs. This was causing me excruciating pain, and his response was, "You'll be all right." So I thought it best to start researching it myself, and really enjoyed it. And one thing led to another, and I decided to become a trainer. And then you start to learn a little bit more. As you know, you're always learning, aren't you, in this sort of thing? So that led me on to basically doing the PT course. And then from there, you do your continual professional development, and you start to do strength stuff, and you start to find your, not niche, but you start to find where you're happy and where you really enjoy it. And that changes as you get older, I suppose. It's certainly changed for me when I had children, as you might experience as well. You have a bit of a new understanding of what clients mean when they say they're tired because their kids didn't sleep last night.
it gives. I said it was like I did an interview for a job. I think a couple of months after my son was born, and Jane, a mutual friend of ours, was interviewing me at the time, and she said, and actually in the interview, she said, how has having a kid helped you? And I was like, it's like someone's put like a laser beam focus on any 5 minutes you get outside of having a kid. So anytime I had spare time, I was like, well, if it doesn't happen in these 5 minutes, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
So it kind of weirdly thought, so even though it brought more pressure and, I say fatigue and things, it actually made me more productive, which is something we probably talk about later on as well. But just on that point, yeah absolutely. It's like, it's a game changer. Well, anyway, you were saying, yes. So you kind of got into training, and then you kind of when did the powerlifting stuff start coming in, and when was that?
That was about 5 years ago, maybe. That's when because when you've competed in things before, that doesn't go away. That feeling of wanting to compete, and you know, my fighting days were done, mainly because my wife doesn't want me to do it. And if I wanted to, I would, but you know, I thought I'd respect her.
Of course you would. Of course you would.
Yeah, that's right. Just to make that clear. But no, I decided not to do any sort of fighting anymore. And frankly, once you fall in love, get married, and have kids, but me personally, my sort of edge went really on that. So I always loved lifting. Always. It's like a therapy for me on a personal level. It's something I look forward to. It often grounds my day, so I'm able to focus on other things. And frankly, as well, you know, sometimes you get trainers that don't train, and it's hard to really understand somebody and what they're going through unless you've been through it yourself. You know, when you've had that max lift and you've got to dig deep, you know how it feels to do that, so you can help people through it. But powerlifting started about 5 years ago, really, and I started doing it myself, and then started getting a group of friends together and we were doing it. And then I started taking courses and learning a bit more, going to seminars, and then started coaching people myself. And it's just amazing. Like when you get to see somebody. Well, I always say it a lot on the videos I do on YouTube. I always say that sounded like a shameless plug there, didn't it?
I let it fly. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Go there now, subscribe, like, share.
If you can get it to come up on the screen, that'd be great.
I'm technically crap.
Yeah, that'd be neither of us.
It'd be like, hang on a second now.
Yeah, but I mean,
this old school.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's probably best, don't you think? I forget what I was saying now. It's gone. You were saying people on YouTube, on your YouTube thing. You were saying. Yeah, I always say that one of the best things that I get to see quite often is people doing something while saying they can't do it. So they're like, I can't do this as they're doing it. It's like you're doing it right now, and it's incredible. And when you get to see somebody do that on a platform in a room full of people. When they get a PB, I don't know, for argument's sake, they're doing 100 kilos on the squat and they've never done it before and they get to do it in front of people. That's it. That is a great feeling for you as a coach and as for them, clearly.
It's a good point as well, just to cross over, because obviously, I represent the kind of like a rehab side of this conversation. And just as you said that about I can't do something, and strength being very linked to pain in a lot of ways, people being afraid or feeling frail that, no, that I think that will hurt, or that's going to hurt, and then you're like, well, let's just see how it goes, and it doesn't hurt. Yeah, okay, so the brain with regards to I won't make this lift and this lift isn't going to happen it has a similar enough kind of with pain is like, I'm going to have pain. It's just like this kind of like, yes, sometimes they do it and it's like, yeah, I had pain, yeah, that was painful, but sometimes it's not, and they have this kind of like, okay, right, well, I've not been doing that for 2 months because I was expecting that to be painful, or I'm not going to do that lift, or I'm going to feel like there's a big connection with that and strength training. I think an awful lot, that kind of and it links back to how me and you have a similar process when it comes to assessing patients and what's the most important, or clients, what's the most important thing you need to develop before the program even starts, before the weightlifting starts, before the big exciting stuff, before anything like that. What's that first thing that we think is really important before anything, like, because it's the thing we discussed when we met first a couple of years ago in the cafe. It was kind of it was the first time I had a cross conversations outside physio with somebody who was going, yeah, this is what I think is important. I'm going, yeah, that's what I think is like, that's definitely what I think is important. So and of course it is, because we're both dealing with humans with emotions and feelings, and that we have to try and convince either to do some stuff. We need to get them to do whatever that might be, follow advice, follow a nutrition program, follow exercises, and that's what I kind of want to, just in this opening side of the conversation is like, what these important things are. What in your opinion, what do you think they are?
I mean, in my opinion, mindset is the gateway to performance. Without having the correct mindset, you can't go over and lift or deadlift 200 kilos. You have to be in the right frame of mind. And quite often, it surprised me, it might come across slightly sexist, so I apologize. But you know, when I started doing powerlifting, I made the silly assumption that I'd be dealing with a lot of men. You know, it's quite often when people think of
Yeah.
powerlifting, they think of big blokes lifting heavy weights. When actually, I've dealt with far more females, you know, a lot more women, and I can't deny that I see women get physically stronger and mentally stronger at the same time, because I've got someone in mind now. When they go to do their lifting, their squat or whatever, they approach the bar like a caged animal almost, you know, like really fired up, ready to go. And they now have the ability to tap into that. If you walk up to a barbell and you just put your hands on it and you've got it in your mind, well, I'll give it a try, then it's probably not going to happen. You have to believe in that moment that this is going to happen. Otherwise, you know, you've really limited your chances, in my eyes. Did I ask you a question? A different question.
No, it's good. Yeah, no, it's all going to link into some of the questions that we have from some of the people who've asked this question. So I think, so we'll probably get to reflect back on that. And I think that, mindset, then breaking down mindset down into, my thing I was bang on about, on my courses.
Oh, here we go.
You did it. So when I teach anyone, regardless, when I'm teaching it, it's like the first things that the thing is that what do you think is the most important thing to get someone to do what you want them to do, or exercise compliance? So I usually throw it out to the room, and you know, you get a load of correct answers, because there's loads of stuff. It's not one thing, and it is quite important. But like my two things, which I discovered through marketing, actually. So when I set up my private work about 5 or 6 years ago, so I always worked in the NHS, and then I've split it between private work and the NHS now. So when I set that up, I was like, well, I'm going to need to know how to market here. I need to know how to set up a business and it not fail. So went and did some courses and looked online and read around a lot of stuff. Which brought me into a lot more psychology, which actually, and this is the thing, it's helped me massively more than some even physical books I've read. So some of the physical stuff about, you know, training or diagnosis or whatever is grand, but sometimes it's quite slow to change. You can read all these books, but actually when I started reading psychology books and especially around marketing or developing a business, all of a sudden I was like going, these guys are miles ahead. You know, on how to be able to convince people to buy stuff they don't need. Yeah. So we buy stuff all the time, you know, the same stuff with different colors. We buy multiple trainers. We don't need most of the stuff we buy extra. You know, it's just as I think you were saying about Atomic Habits, James Clear, but Mark, you know, we were talking about that the other day. But Mark Manson, who writes The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, is like, you know, you're just distracting yourself away from the inevitable death that you're going to have. So buy all this stuff. Yeah, it was actually free. It was free, and I won't get into that too much. But my point is kind of like this kind of consumerism is driven by people who are very smart and who are absolutely tapping into this mindset that when people turn up to us, either injured or want to change their lifestyle and get fit or stronger, they're coming, and we have to then. Because sometimes I don't think they know what they want really. They kind of know. Some people are very specific, but I think an awful lot of people are kind of just maybe, or pressure from somebody else, or pressure from maybe society, or they think they should have something. And really, if it's pressure from an external source, it's very, very difficult to really want that and be motivated then to continue with the program for weeks and weeks and months. And that's why a lot of PTs fail or physios fail, because we need to keep them there for 6 months, not 2-3 weeks, not 6 weeks, not even 12 weeks. We need to be there 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and changing habits, which take that long. So like, in order to do that, I pulled out like trust and empathy being the two major key words in what I'm trying to do from the minute I meet my client, or the minute you know, and I know you're the same. So it's that kind of like listening approach and really getting an answer. So sometimes asking some uncomfortable questions after they've told you the story. So they've told you a big, long story. You've listened to it, and you know, that's the key thing, isn't it? And it's the key thing in physio for our therapy now. It's a buzzword. We need to listen more. We need to find out really what's making people tick, because that will motivate them. But actually listening is quite difficult, especially when you're trying to help somebody. But also then, how are you going to listen and then be able to transform what you've heard back to them and either challenge the way they're thinking without annoying them really, and pushing them on. And that's a skill that I think is very difficult to develop. But I think is if you don't, I think it's you're screwed really. I think no matter how good your program is, it's not going to work.
I don't think you can underestimate the level of shame people attach to themselves, and unnecessarily most of the time. When I work with people, I mean, like for example, I've got a friend who's a doctor, and he asks that question, how much alcohol do you drink per week? And he says, you can always guarantee I can double what's written on that piece of paper, because people will change the figure or won't know or whatever. So it takes people a long time to confess to you the things that are going wrong, because we're not magicians. We're not mind readers. We don't know everything about somebody from meeting them in the first few seconds. We experience their stories as they're doing their cardio warm up, and they start telling you things. You'll say to them, "Oh, how's your week been?" And they'll say, "Yeah, good. I've stuck to my diet, and I've been doing this, I've been doing that." And then as they're casually doing their bike, they start telling you about Thursday night at the pub, and you're like, "Oh," but I find, I had an experience once with a guy whom he was a really large chap, really stocky, but was carrying some excess body fat that he wanted to get rid of. He owned a building firm, and he was a very sort of stoic, tough guy. And we've been training together for a while, and I knew there was something within him that he wasn't saying, but I wasn't going to push. It's not my place to push. I'm not a therapist, so I know my boundaries. But I knew at some point we were going to have to figure out what that was, because it was holding him back. And he was making progress like most people would. When you start doing an exercise program, you make progress at the beginning, and then you stall, and that's when you have to start looking at the real issues. And then one day we were talking about something, and I could feel that he was getting slightly emotional about the situation. So I sort of backed off a little bit, and then he started crying. And if you could see this guy, he looks like a Viking. It really took me by surprise. I was like, whoa, okay. And it turned out that he'd had this habit of going to McDonald's and mindlessly eating at lunchtime. And when I say, mindlessly eating, he was eating a lot, a real lot, like 2 or 3 Big Macs and things like that. Yeah. And he'd never told anyone that before. He didn't even tell his wife, that he was doing that. So he was still managing to lose weight whilst doing things like that. Because
how many sessions in before he's telling you that? How many sessions have you?
We've done at least one cycle of training, which would have been about 4 weeks, and then we were getting so probably about 4 to 6 weeks, I would say. And he told me that, and just from telling me that, it was like it was out there now, and there was a sense of relief from it. And we sat and we spoke for a while, and we talked about how we can combat that and how I can support him in that. If he feels that urge, ring me, and we'll talk it through and stuff. And sometimes that's what, as a trainer, you're there to support and guide. You don't know anything that someone can't read in your book, so, and sometimes it's quite irritating when you see people that think they've got the secret, and there is no secret. It's all just science. It's the application of the science that's important, and that's the bit that people who have normal jobs don't have the time to do. That's why me and you geek out and read all these books and go to these seminars, because we love it.
But you can have all the science and the information, as you said. That story is great, and there's 2 things there. It's the length of time it took for somebody who to be that honest with somebody. So in that 4 weeks, the only thing that's going to happen there is a relationship's going to be built.
Yeah.
He's got to the point where he doesn't have to live with you. So like telling his wife would have been really tricky and possibly really
comes down to that shame again, doesn't it?
Yeah. 100%. So he's telling you because but he's still not telling you in the first session.
No.
So he's paid you, but he's still waiting for something to happen. And in my opinion, that you've shown him something, I think, in that time. And this is where I believe in with any patient I see is I have to make sure that I genuinely want to help, and I genuinely want to change their behavior or whatever it is I want to do. And the only way, I think, again, and the science backs this up, and some of the psychological theories backs this up, is that kind of the listening to it, and then to be able to kind of speak back to them in their language and actually go, look, is this what I've just heard? And then they're like, yeah, that's exactly what I've just heard. And then having that empathy of, well, does it make you feel like this? And then they're like, yeah, well, Jesus, that's exactly how it is. You're having this conversation, and they're like, yeah. How do you know that? And it's like going, so you get that, you nearly know when someone starts to think that you're not mind reading, because it's not, but you're a human. Plus also I've seen thousands of patients, but also myself, I'm going, Jesus, that's what I feel like. I'm like going, well, is that what's going on now? And then how's your relationship? That relationship then must be really pretty tricky if you're having to do this, this, and this. And they're like going, yeah, it is fucking tricky, you know? And then you're like, okay, well, yeah. So you start to have that conversation like you would, because we have to do that pretty quickly. Like as he said to you, for your 4 weeks training, and he's like going, come in and beat me for 4 weeks, you know, or, you know, get me, you know, shit, you're right, okay, let's do the program. But really the program started 4 weeks in. The real program started 4 weeks in when he said, I binge out. Whereas like, you know, they come into us sometimes and it's like, right, well, I've got this problem, I'm in pain, I can't sleep, I can't do whatever. And within, sometimes some physios have 30 minutes. I'm lucky I give 90 minutes to new patients because of this reason. Like, sometimes 30 minutes in, you can't rush. Like some people it's quicker and it's great. And you end up spending more time on the physical side of things. Yeah, that's great. But there's so many people who've come in this 4 or 5 years. And like when you dive into the history, because sometimes that history, well, it is not sometimes, it's always the history. And sometimes I write on a whiteboard and they go through it and they see it themselves and we chat and then they chat it through and they're like, they nearly start to solve it and nearly a little bit themselves. They're like, oh yeah, right, I can see that.
The answer is always in the client. It's always there. Deep down, they know the answer. They know what's wrong. You know, I've never seen anyone surprised that when I tell them, oh, you're eating too much. They know that. You know, they know that bit, you know, but they just need some support.
Thanks for that.
And it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. I mean, I say it all the time, you know, telling somebody that to eat less and do more is like telling somebody who run a race, you know, you come second, you know. I can't remember the thing now. But
that was terrible, but we'll move over. I can't edit that out, Johnny.
The analogy.
You know, it's too obvious. Of course they know that. Of course they know. They've been told that. They know that. They're not stupid. You know, this is the kind of thing is sometimes as well as a physio early on in my career as well, you've got to remember so much stuff. You've got to actually get really good at the communication stuff takes so much longer, you know, to be able to assess a joint from in my world, or to train a deadlift or coach a deadlift, and we can dive into some of that stuff in a bit. But coaching actually, no, but just like to say the technicalities of a squat, right? You know what I mean? It is what it is, and you're going to do it. And same for us, assessing a joint to a certain degree. And yes, you can get better at it, but you can if you work on it for a while, but actually that understanding, that listening, the ability to kind of see patterns in people's behavior, that just takes repetition and repetition. And then also to kind of read around that and actually say, this is actually more important a lot of the time than some of the stuff that I thought was more important, like the physical stuff. Because once I've had that conversation where I say to physios as well, sometimes I've gone through 90 minutes and sometimes I haven't physically done anything to them at all. Sometimes I definitely haven't prescribed anything. Apart from what we've had is a really good conversation going, well, look, this is what we're looking at here. This is the kind of thing we're looking at.
Doesn't it? It all starts up here. You're trying to get an understanding of the person, and that's why, you know, there's not a one size fits all program, because everybody's different. Everyone's got different time restraints and family commitments and work commitments. So to tell somebody that this is the program that's going to work for everyone, this is the diet that's going to work for everybody, you know, that's where you get strength athletes trying to be keto, and it's like that's not, you know, it will get you a result somewhere along the line, but is it optimal? Probably not. You know, and again, it'd be different for everybody.
This is the thing about, you just touching on that topic there you just mentioned about, you know, programs can look very similar. So even in rehab programs, you know, sometimes you'll see, and I'll see 3 or 4 people in a row, and I'm like, pretty much the program has been the same. However, as in, if you looked at it kind of going, well, he's just done similar stuff for all of them. And I'm like going, yeah, but it was delivered with a totally different context, potentially with different ranges, potentially with different intensities, potentially for a different goal. You know, one was, you know, within that exercise, if you look at that as a program, and like you see it now on YouTube, or not YouTube, but on the social media, everyone is doing home workouts and showing you every single different fucking way to do a deadlift and how to do it with a band and how to do it with a bag. That's great and everything, but eventually it's just like, well, if you look at, I don't know, some of the best trainers in the world, right down to someone who lives, you know, who's just qualified, they're doing similar stuff. They're doing deadlifts, benches, squats.
It's when people try to reinvent the wheel and say, oh, okay, we're going to do a one-legged squat with pouted lips and holding an elastic band out.
You don't do the powdered lip squat?
No, mate, I've not got the lips for it, I'm afraid.
If you subscribe, you get a free video of me demonstrating it's a one-time it's one time only. You have to subscribe. I don't even know what you're subscribing to. I have nothing to subscribe to, but you should. And then I'll show you that.
Yeah, you should get that going, mate.
Yeah, it'll transform your lunge, pal.
Just with the powdered lips. There you go. Watch out for people like him.
It's coming across the bottom of the screen here. Like this is a snake salesman or snake oil salesman. Right. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Cool. Well, like, you know, that's great intro. I think what we might do now is just dive into some questions that we were sent into. Some great questions sent in. I feel like I'm on a radio show. Just sent in.
Yeah, just sent in.
Proper cheesy radio station. Yeah. Right. So first up, and I made a couple of notes as well after it, because you know, sometimes I just think when someone throws questions at you, sometimes just want that time to kind of have a little think about some of the answers.
Well, it's easy to lose your train of thought, like I just did.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But yeah, so hopefully these go. What we're going to do is we're going to put all the questions in the feed underneath, and then you can either fast forward to the answers if you don't want to hear us rambling. Yeah. But we're really entertaining, so you should watch us all. Right. So the first one is Charlie Curry. So Charlie's a good mate of mine, and he's an international MTB rider. So he knows his way around a bike. And I've seen him a few times for injuries and stuff, but he's asked a great question, which when it comes to action sports, which are notoriously unpredictable, what one piece of advice would you give regarding pre-performance mindset?
Well, in my opinion, I think it comes down to, firstly, having faith in your training. If you're training for, that's mountain biking, right? So if you're doing all of your training and you're getting the results and you're measuring your results and you're hitting your targets, then you should have a lot of faith in the fact that when you come to compete, that you're going to perform well. When I work with powerlifters, one of the biggest things for me for game day is making everything repeatable. You know, making sure that they can seek comfort in their routines and things like that, because nerves are going to be there. You can't do nothing about them. You shouldn't, because they're a good thing. But quite often, you know, like we were talking about with Atomic Habits, weren't we? James Clear, and he tells that story about the cycling team, the British cycling team, making small 1% changes that ended up resulting in them being on top for 10 years. And some of the things they were doing were like getting them to wash their hands. They got doctors in to make them wash their hands so that they prevented themselves from getting sick, you know, and certain outfits that they were wearing that made them lighter, and all these little small changes. But because at the end of the day, you know, you can only do what you can do to perform. You know, as a mountain biker, you can only ride a mountain bike and you can do the strength and conditioning on the side of it and stuff. But mindset, you know, visualization is a big thing. It sounds a bit, you know, almost spiritual, but if you don't believe you can do what you're going to do, then you won't.
Yeah. And on that one, yeah. So yeah, no, like I think what I think from practical terms, from what you said there, is that routine stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a book. I know the name, but I actually have it here somewhere. I took it out the other day. I'll find. I know the name of it anyway. But so with Charlie, because I get this question a lot as well. Because when people are injured, it's crap. And there's another question later on down the line. Someone else asked about kind of like situations like this. So a lot of the questions will cross over a little bit. But in this one, it's like, so you're injured, you can't do the sport you want to do, and it's kind of like, what do you do when you're injured to gain an advantage over your competition? Well, I can't do the sport I'm doing, which is usually the best way of doing that. But there's loads of other things, because obviously you do the sport because you love the sport. It's like the people who go into the gym and they pick the favorite thing that they like doing first and they do it, which is bench, if you're a bloke. So, you know what I mean? Or, you know, or whatever, you know, and now it's going to be squat because everyone thinks that's cool. But, you know, it's the thing that you like doing, you'll do first because you enjoy it. So sport is going to be the thing they enjoy. So and then when you don't have that, then it's a head wreck. And then you're left with all the kind of stuff that you probably think you should really probably get in order, but you always put off because you're doing your sport. And you always have that caveat of, well, I'm doing my sport and that's going to get me better at it. And one of the big things that I always mention, because the questions regarding this was mindset and how am I ready game day? So one of the there's a couple of things. One starts with a story, basically, which I always tell. I'm bored of telling it, but it's a good one. Was around Steve Peters, who I love. He's written the Chimp Paradox, the psychiatrist, sports psychiatrist. So it's a great book. This is my top 3, without doubt. Both personally and professionally, it was a great one. And the story here may be slightly Chinese whispers, but I heard it on a program, so I'm going to do my best. But the idea is definitely there. It's definitely true. So he met Steve Peters, Chris Hoy. Chris Hoy, the Scottish cyclist, gold medalist, like 5 gold or 7 gold medals or something daft like that. Yep. He met him and he was saying to him, they were chatting and Chris Hoy was telling the story and he's going like, Steve said to him, well, what's going to happen if someone breaks the world record before you go out? And he goes, well, I'm just not going to think about it. And Steve Peters goes, well, what happens if I say, don't think about a pink elephant?
Yeah.
And he's like, so it's like, okay, right. He says, so okay, I'm listening now. So this guy's, and Steve Peters is a top level sprinter as well. Like he's got world records in masters sprinting. So he knows what he's talking about, and as well as physically and mentally. So he goes, right, okay. So he said, well, what you're going to do is you can't switch that off. The guy's broke the world record. That is going to affect your mental state and potentially your physical state. And there's going to be nothing that can reproduce that, right? Like that feeling. But what you're going to try and do for the next whatever period of time before the World Championships is, if you ever feel anxious or stressed or anything that's making you kind of get a bit like that, what I want you to do is go through your game, a bit like what you were saying about, I've done my training, I'm locked in. Any of the coaching cues which are brief that I need to follow to execute during the cycle. So whatever that might be in velodrome cycling, I don't know, but they might say drive hard, push, stay on the wheel, whatever it might be that they have queued up for him. He goes through those cues, right? So he gets that adrenaline rush, he gets the cortisol going. That's what's going to happen on game day. And then he just goes, right, he gets his list of things that he goes through. And he says it took him about 2 minutes to go through it. That cycle of things and that brings him into the focus of what he can control and away from the uncontrollable, which is, shit, it's the World Championships, there's everyone here, he's just done that, maybe I can't do this.
That's the spiral,
which is really easy to come in because your emotional brain wants to say, you're not going to do this. No matter how strong you are, like all the best do this. So he went home and he this is the story. I think he heard about a time that was pretty a training time that was pretty fast, a French ride or something like that. And he kind of went. He wasn't nervous, but he just went. He got this kind of right, that's a good time. That guy's a threat. So he went through it and he continued to do it in all sort. I think it was even in like an argument with his missus or whatever, or anything where he was getting a bit like that, he would go into, instead of reacting, he's going to go into his gameplay. So just like physical training, mental training has to be practiced constantly over and over again. You just can't, it's like saying, Chris, the night before, do you want to go training to see if you can win the World Championships tomorrow? Everyone will be like, no, you don't. You have to spend years doing that. Well, you have to spend the same length of time working on that mentality. Now, some people have it naturally, or some people are able to do that, or have had parents that maybe, allow them to do that. But like, the story ended up anyway, he breaks the world record. I think it was broken 2 or 3 times before him. And then he breaks it again to win it. So like, something phenomenal. But he said when the guy broke the world record before him, his brain just went into what I can control. So I said that. It's that routine, isn't it? It's that kind of like, I don't, my gear, now we were saying that together, it's like go and get the music, your earphone, if you use wireless earphones, they're charged. If you use music to motivate yourself, you need to have the fucking music there and you need to have the charged earphones. They need to be in the bag beside the gear, and all the gear needs to be in the same position so that there's no kind of like, where's my shoes? Where's my band? I don't have the music on the tune. That's what I normally get ready with.
That's where the visualization becomes important. Like sitting there with yourself and just visualizing, like, again, I'll associate it to powerlifting, visualizing every moment of that meet. and that's why, with meets, I always get there early. I always make sure we get there early, let people become acclimatized to their surroundings, find out where the toilets are, meet people and just start to settle into their environment. Because the worst thing you can do is get there and have to rush, and you start to get panicked and you start to miss things, and that can cause a lot of stress. So really having faith in your training, and knowing that at that point you've done everything you can. There's no more little tips or tricks that you can do. That's it. You've done your training, you're ready. And then you have to make sure you've got repeatable routines that continue to support and build in confidence for the sport you're going to do. And then having that visualization of being able to go, okay, I've already been here, I've already done this because I've visualized it already,
And the book is called Football Raise Your Mental Game. So it's a book about football, actually, football mental psychology. But it's one of those really thin books that it's just when you read it, it's like really helpful, practical stuff.
What are you saying? I can't read the big ones. Is that what you mean?
I can't. I really can't.
Is it on Audible?
No. So it's like one of the few books I've read.
Good job it's
that's what I'm telling you. I only buy thin books. I'm trying to buy bigger ones, but
so
that's why I love it.
It's full of big books. You just don't read them. Is that what you're saying?
I just pretend. I just buy them on Audible as well. So that's just for my ego. Yeah, and then the Audible ones are really, Oh yes, I've read them all. I've listened to them. Right, same thing.
One day someone's going to test you, Okay, page 12.
Good love. I'll just be honest. So Football Raise Your Mental Game, and it talks about loads of the things I've read or listened to in other books about psychology and that. And just like you, the visualization. One of them was that kind of like getting when you win or when you have a successful whatever. So in Charlie's case, he has a good ride or whatever, and they talk about anchoring those feelings and those emotions and anchoring them with things like either movements. So some people have things like they roll their fingers or they do something that they can repeat. Some people click their, they've kind of some like tics and stuff like that they do. Music, smells, anything that can remind you of that situation, so that when they are in their bedroom, that they can basically step in, close their eyes, and be in game day and race day and actually be there going, yes, crossing the line. And they talk you through some strategies. And I always recommend that book. It's cheap. It's by Richard Nugent and Stephen Brown. I think they're coaches basically, but they've obviously applied the psychology to a really practical book aimed at footballers. But to be honest, it's you can apply this to anything. And it's just, in these times now, I've been kind of going on about, everyone's going on about getting fit and everything. It's like going, this is no better time to try and test mental health strategies or mindset, whatever you want to call it. Mental health,
like Headspace, I suspect that that's a very popular app at the moment. It's a lot recommended. Well, I've been recommending it a lot to clients because things are so uncertain at the moment, and there's so much unpredictability and so many things to get stressed about. Like I know yourself, you and I, the other day when we were talking about doing this, we were talking about homeschooling and how much of a nightmare it is. And I've got a friend who's a teacher who just outright told me that homeschooling sucks. He's like, I've got none of the things, when I'm at school, I'm a teacher. I'm in that teaching role. I'm in school. Everything around me supports that I'm a teacher. When I'm at home, I'm also dad. I'm also the husband. I'm also a homeowner, whatever. And now you're expected to try and educate your children. And it's difficult. It's difficult to try and step into that role.
So I've been doing virtual appointments now, so obviously there's been a drop off on, appointments and things. I obviously would normally have a full day, and now but I'm in my spare room. I don't go into the clinic because there's no point. I don't need to. I'm on an ironing board. I'm used to, I've just bought a load of lovely new equipment. I've got my gear. I know where things are. I've got my whiteboard. I can interact with the person. I've got the way things should be. It feels nice, like being in my clinic. Yeah. And now, and although I can still do a very good job on this, I'm coming away and it's been good. But at lunchtime, I'm like, I'm glad I have no one else left. I'm done.
There's a serious helplessness. It's horrible, isn't it?
It was just like just in the room, as you were saying, it's like the room, the environment is kind of like I'm standing beside an ironing board and trying to move around my room, and I'm like going, I really want to show this, and I can do stuff, and it's helped me in other ways. It's made me very kind of in some ways it's helped me being
sometimes probably be a bit more precise or whatever. But it was, but me afterwards was like, oh my God. And then I say you walk down and then you've got 3 kids running around, and, you know, up until, you know, someone has asked a question, which we might get on to next, about like what you do and strategies wise. But like, you know, I was raiding the Haribo and the Fredos. You know, I was just like sneaking them in. Me and my wife didn't realize we were doing the same thing. She's like, we're like going, oh God, just anything for a little bit of something, kind of like a buzz. And then I was like, we got after a couple of weeks, and both of us were like, I didn't have any. I was training. I trained daily for my mental health as well as physical, but I have to do something daily. And I was like, going, I don't have any. I'm not training for anything, which is lowering my motivation. So I was going out there and I got a sore elbow from gardening, and I was just like, and then I'm eating Freddos, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? And then I kind of went, wait a minute, I'm banging on about my mental health online. I'm not looking after myself here. And as soon as I made that kind of realization, even actually typing the post, I was like going, that's what I need to do. I need to do that. I need to get myself sorted. But anyway, I think hopefully Charlie is absolutely buzzing with those answers. I think the other thing, the other thing was like anchoring music, breathing. Breathing's always a good one if you've got strategies for that. And I say that headspace or calm and all that.
I see one thing I will say is creating the right energy as well. And again, that might sound slightly spiritual, but what I mean is, you know, again, relating it back to powerlifting, I've seen people standing at the door waiting to go up and on the platform and lift. And they've got their mate punching them in the back and screaming in their ear. And I'm like, your fight or flight is like, it's like a match. You light a match and it will burn down, and there's only so much of that match there. Same with your fight or flight. It's only so much there. Yeah. You use it, slapping your mate and roaring into some, you know, and then you go out on the platform and you miss your lift. Well, I'm not surprised. You must be knackered. You know, you've just used all your energy, like, you know, all your mental energy.
Well, that was it. I'll scoot right down to the, before we got the next one, but Charlie Ailing, a good friend of mine and patient as well, who unfortunately was about to do a powerlifting, his first one. And one of his questions was at the bottom. We'll just answer it quickly though. On that one though, is kind of like, it's that environment, you know, what advice would you give to a first time powerlifter? But as I said to you, it's nearly worth going to a powerlifting meet and not compete. And just, absolutely. You know what I mean? Just go in there and be like, fucking hell, right, this is the crack. There's a lot of big people. There's a lot of, there's a guy or woman sitting, I say guys for women and men, by the way. So, but, you know, used to sitting in front of you. It's different, you know, without that. Some people can be okay with that, but some people can properly go, all right, this is too much.
I mean, for your first powerlifting competition, the most important thing, honestly, is to enjoy it. And that actually, what I mean by that is, yes, you're at a competition, but you're not competing, not against other people. You're competing with yourself. And as long as you know, because I get so many people say to me, oh, I won't compete until I get to this number. And I'm like, well, what's the point in that? You know, who cares what you lift? It doesn't matter. I've never been in such a nurturing environment as a powerlifting competition. Everyone is so supportive. Everyone is rooting for you, and nobody cares what you lift. They don't care, you know, because we've all been there. You know what I mean? We've all gone in and not been able to lift this and not been able to lift that, and then X amount of time later, you're doing really well and you're really happy with yourself. But the funny thing is, you can always get stronger, but you're never strong enough. You know, and it's always, you know, you always want to get more and more and more. You lift 500 kilos and you want to lift, you know, 505. You know, so
that reminds me of something I heard recently. I'm trying to think who told me this. Oh no, it was Chris Beardsley. He's an amazing S&C researcher. So you got to follow his stuff. He like pours out so much stuff. The guy's unbelievable. And I read it. He's got a great PDF. I think it's £5 or something. And you definitely give it to him for, you know, anyone just trying to get into
the price of that. You're tight, you in it. So.
It's another thing I read, which is, you know, remarkable. I actually put it on my phone, which is easier to read actually. But anyway, enough of my reading disability. Is in there.
If you've got a disability, then I apologise.
No, I don't. I'm not dyslexic, but I do fall asleep or lose concentration. Like I am an audio learner, 100%. Which comes on to my, you know, when I teach, you know, learning, it's like you've got to hit them all three. And, you know, it's good not being the most common one is someone who can, you know, people can read. You know, loads of people love reading. I'm just so jealous. It drives me mad. But when one podcast came out in audiobooks, I took off. It was amazing.
Game changer, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, shocker! Like, and you just have
I'm
it
not sure
anywhere.
I could have achieved my degree without that, to be honest.
Yeah, like if I was doing a degree now, it'd be just so much. I just got the tail end of my masters. I started getting it then, but it was, but what was I banging on? Oh yeah, Chris, it was just when you were saying about strength there, and everyone's asking about like what is strength and stuff, and so hypertrophy versus strength, and just to get the quote right, it was like you demonstrate strength, you show hypertrophy or muscle, because, and then his point was, and it's a cool one, like, and it sounds really, really weird. And people go, what does that mean? We see you show muscle, but you demonstrate strength. So you could be like, it was like you talk to Ronnie Coleman or Schwarzenegger, and they could go get, they could do a meet and smash it, and then like a week, go on the lash and eat a burger or whatever, and like the next day, you're not going to know. That guy still looks like Mr. Universe. You know what I mean? He's not, he hung over, he would be weak as hell. He would be nowhere near what he could have done the day before strength wise, but you wouldn't see everyone would be like, oh my God, the guy looks like he's, as ripped. Whereas like you talk to Eddie Hall or any strong men or power, or maybe more of the power lifter guys, and if they do one day, it could be, and then the next day is like, there's nothing in the tank. Yeah, so it's like,
horrible.
Yeah, so it's that it's ability to demonstrate. So strength is funny, and then it's there one day, and then it's not, and it depends on whereabouts you are. As you said, your central nervous system and how you measure that. It's a podcast in itself.
Well, people don't realise the importance of that. It's so like fatigue management is one of the, if not the most important thing in powerlifting. At the end of the day, you squat, bench, and deadlift. You might do some accessory work to support that squat, bench, and deadlift, but if you're not managing your fatigue, then you are going to find that you're coming into the gym and you're not performing or hitting the numbers that you want to hit, and it's going to become frustrating, and then it cascades and it becomes this whole minefield of issues. So managing your fatigue, and we've spoken loads about fatigue management, but people don't realize, when we give answers to some of these questions, they maybe going to sound a bit wishy-washy, some of the answers, but the reason for that is because people, there's so much context needed, isn't there? Everything's so individual, and that's why, as we said earlier, you can't just give one program to somebody and to the next person. Everything matters. Everything about that person matters. So
with Charlie, in his case, someone like Charlie, I was able to kind of give him he was a sponge type of person, so I gave him quite a lot, and he was just like, no problem. And then another time I might give similar stuff, but it's not even in the same amount of volume, just because that person just can't. It could even be the same level of competition, so they're at an international level, but they just can't take that level of. And sometimes with mindset stuff, especially, you got to be careful, because you just don't know people's backgrounds and what you're unearthing and how you advise them. So again, and how much they can take. Right. So again, you get that crossover, but there's nothing wrong with kind of saying to people, get your routines. Learn how to manage your mindset going forward. I think that's. I
mean, getting to real like high levels of performance. If I'm honest, you'll find it's quite boring, because it is repetition. It's repetition, repeating the same things over and over again to become successful at it. It's just like anything you want to learn, anything you want to become skilled at, is repetition, isn't it? It's that 1,000 hours or 10,000 hours,
Yeah, watching that Michael Jordan Last Dance program, that he just last night, the show I was watching. Yeah, and he was just kind of going, he's like, no one wants to be Michael Jordan. You don't want to be me. It's like boring, it's just like same stuff day in, day out. Then he goes, they talked about his day, and it's the same with any elite level. It's just boring, monotonous.
Well, people see the end result, don't they? They don't see all the stuff that goes into it. The thousands upon thousands of hours of just bouncing a ball, or or taking shots, or running laps, or whatever,
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. And sometimes that is the issue. People think there's shortcuts, and there isn't. There is no shortcut. It is hard work, and it's all the time.
Professional sport, unfortunately, maps out what other people think. Maps out what society should be. It nearly has that kind of like, well, that's the way I should train. And it's a little bit coming into some of the other questions. It's that kind of like, right, you need to do 5-6 session training sessions. I was kind of talking about my missus, who's got into being able to now eventually get back into some training after the kids and all that. And talking about Dan John, trainer in the States, has a great one about the type of workouts there are. He has this philosophy of a bus bench and a park bench workout. Mm-hmm. So your bus bench is the kind of, the bus turns up on, you know, you've got your destination, your time, and then the bus comes, and then that's where you're going. So it's 6 weeks to shredded, 6 weeks to, you know, big arms, or a deadlift, or a this, or a faster, whatever the thing is. It's 6 weeks of all out. Usually it's always in the bodybuilding type approach, you know, how to shred up or how to look good, because that's what sells. This is what people think sells anyway. People want to look good, right? That's the kind of one of the big drivers. So that's why there's, you know, Men's Fitness is the same front cover for the last 10 years. You know, it's abs. So it's kind of like, so he's saying, like, on the bus bench, it's that there is a goal, and but it's bloody hard. It's balls out for 6 weeks. You know, it's not, it's really hard to stick with those programs, right? And then you've got the park bench, which he's American, so you go to the park, and you see a man, and you start chatting to him, and he's really nice, he's something in common with him, you have a laugh, you see a squirrel doing a backflip or something, and you think, oh, that's pretty cool. When you go to the park the next day, you don't expect to see that again, or him. There's no expectation that maybe he was there, or the squirrel's doing the backflip. You just go and enjoy the park, you're there. And if it happens again, it happens again, but you're not really, there's no pressure on it. And I was explaining to my missus before, it was like going, so if the society, or the, you know, sport and everything is pushing that 6 week programs nearly all the time, so that you should train like that. And if you don't train like that, you're not going to look where you want to be. And then if you don't carry that on, well, you know, you're not going to get where you want. And you don't have to train like that, because it doesn't help with compliance. So he's saying the park bench is that kind of like, you show up, you do something. You do something. Yeah, you need to work hard, but there's no pressure on this side. Like, if I don't do it 6 days in a row, then I ain't going to get to where I am. Or I missed that session, I didn't really put in the effort. It's like, doesn't matter. You showed up, you're consistent. You're building that. And then 2 or 3 times a year, depending on what the goal is, obviously, this is all goal dependent, but 2 or 3 times a year, you go, right, well, now I'm going to do a bus bench. I'm going to show up for 6 weeks. I've got the time, whatever might be the case, your scenario happens, you've got more gym access or whatever, and you go there and you do it. And then you get into some really good shape or whatever, you achieve a goal, and then you might go in that. But the pressure is all about the mindset in that time. You're not under that, I need to train like that. And if I don't, because 4 or 5 weeks into a program like that, you just want to throw in the towel sometimes.
Yeah, again, you're getting more. You know, quite often you know, if you've not trained for a while and then you start doing something crazy like that, then you get 2 weeks in and you're knackered, or you're verging on injured. Yeah. So
it's the same with diet. You know, it's the same with diets. The best diets are the ones that people stick to and that they can enjoy and continue. You know, that's the same thing.
I spend as much time as I can trying to understand the person, because actually, with people got this thing, like they say, oh, you can't eat that, it's unhealthy, it's not healthy, it's not good for you. At the end of the day, if somebody comes to me and they want to lose weight, I need to put them in a calorie deficit. And I want to know what they eat. They're going to give me their diet. And yeah, there are things that they probably shouldn't eat, and things that they probably shouldn't drink, and that sort of stuff. But what I'm really looking for is to control the amounts. I'm not trying to make massive changes to their diet. Oh, from now on, you can only eat salad. You know, because they don't eat salad as traditionally. Maybe they should, but they don't, you know. Yeah. So therefore, I'm trying to get them to lose weight. That's their goal. It's not to become really good at eating salad, you know. So really, it's about taking what you already do and trying to make it as easy as you can, isn't it? Really, you know, if you say you're going to, for 6 weeks, you're going to do this training program that you find really, really hard and you hate, and you're going to do this diet that you really, really hate, but at the end, I'm going to look like this. You might well look like that at the end, but you're not going to do it anymore. And then you're going to slowly go back to how you used to be. What you're looking for is a slower, more constant process, you know?
Which is more enjoyable, more long-lasting, more fulfilling, more likely to stick with it.
You know, like yesterday, for example, you know, I'm on not a strict diet, but I'm eating a certain way for a certain result, and I've accepted that I have to do that to get that result, and actually I'm okay with it. But yesterday, it was my wife's birthday, and we had a few drinks, and we had a little bit to eat. We had a barbecue, and I can sit there and I can beat myself up, or I can enjoy it. And next day, get back on it again.
It's back to the choice again. So that the mindset that can then be like, well, I've done it now. I've eaten a burger. I've had a
Everybody does that, all or nothing, you know.
Yeah. No, it was Steve Peters. It's the Kelly McGonigal in the Willpower Instinct just says, it's the what the hell effect. Well, I've done it now, so I might as well have fucking 4 burgers, 6 beers, and do it again tomorrow. And that, because it's just like, well, I've done it now, and you're like, oh, well, no, you've the choice. It's kind of like, let's just enjoy this moment. I'm doing this. I just go back and train tomorrow, or I make sure I've learned from that thing.
Having balance. It's all about balance, because having that beer and having that barbecue is good for the soul. It's good because if you can have them small rewards here and there. I mean, I always say it to my clients: nobody got fat from one burger. It's like you didn't just have a burger and people put weight on because
some burger that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I might be proved wrong. There's probably a massive burger out there. But my point being is that it's what you do often, isn't it? It's that consistency. If you're consistently eating healthfully and you're staying within a reasonable amount of calories, then that's how you're going to look. But if you're constantly eating burgers all the time, and I don't mean to badmouth burgers, but
but it's
junk food or whatever,
but it's the threat. It's the thread now. You see the thread that's coming through, and we've answered one question, but see the thread
what
coming
time
through. Yeah, no, 52. And so it's the thread that's coming through from the point of view of you saying it. The answers could be slightly specific, or it depends and wishy-washy if you want to. And I wouldn't even disrespect it with wishy-washy, but yeah, I know what you mean. But it's the trend is that it comes back again. So we've talked about powerlifting meets, race mindset. We've talked about diet. We've talked about strength. We've talked about programs, and all the way through is that back to what the patient needs to understand, or the client needs to understand about consistency. They need to believe in you, trust in your kind of advice, so that when it's Tuesday evening and they want to smash a bottle of Pinot Grigio, that they have something to kind of have that, all right, actually, no, I really want this. And Johnny or Andrew's there to support them when I need that. That's the personal side of training. It's that kind of like, I know that's there. And once you get over that about 66 days, some research looking at when discipline starts to become less needed, and it becomes habit then, or it becomes a lot easier. There's different studies come out in different kind of time frames, but that discipline needed to keep that goal going starts becoming easier. Yeah, and as you said, that those little treats that if you have a burger and everything, it's no problem. You're mentally going, yeah, I accept it, boom, move on. This is because I've done this before.
But you mustn't beat yourself up about it. Then that's what people do. People go, oh, you're this. That's self-talk, that negative self-talk of, I'm this and this and that. And it's like, no, because the more you tell yourself them things, the more you reaffirm it and you make it true,
Well, in that Willpower Instinct, there was a study mentioned in that she talks about dieters, female dieters, who I always mention it, is that they were all on diets, and then they were brought into this study to test cupcakes. Now, I don't know how they recruit people who are on diets to taste cupcakes, but it probably wasn't that hard. So they got a bunch of women, they got them who were on diets, got them to taste the cupcake and rate the cupcake. And then it's an American study, so cupcake, whatever you want to call it. Then what they were told is the group was split. Half the group were told, it doesn't matter. Look, you've been doing really well. It's only one cupcake. We all make mistakes. Just, get on it again. Don't beat yourself up. The other group weren't told anything. And then they were told there was bowls of sweets or candy, whatever, different flavors. So every taste was kind of accounted for. And then they were allowed to take as much as they wanted or as little as they wanted to test the sweets. And again, rate them. So that's what they thought they were there to rate these sweets. But they were told secondly they could eat as much or as less. So the group who were given the message had 50% less chocolate than the group who didn't get the message. So I suppose when you look at those kind of studies, you got to take studies like that with a pinch of salt to a certain degree, on that. But when you have repeatable studies in similar scenarios, you've got to look at something's happening there. Is that kind of guilt will drive? Well, guilt makes you feel stressed. When you're guilty, you stress. You release hormones that make you feel crap. You don't want that stress. It's not comfortable. No. Now, what's the first thing that people do when they're stressed, or what's easy to do, is to eat nice things, drink alcohol, smoke fags, buy stuff. Buy stuff online. Whatever the problem, whatever the goal. If your goal is to save money and you're buying stuff online because you're stressed and you want to get rid of that stress, the quickest thing is to buy something. Oh, that would make me feel good. Oh, that,
Never do the
get
two
a
at
new,
once. So never drink and buy stuff online. It's not good.
on Sunday night as well. That's the biggest eBay. That's where you want to sell stuff. So that's where the biggest thing is on Sunday nights. People are having their wine. They don't want Monday to come. They want to make themselves feel better, and they buy something. So it's that it's that feeling of managing the stress, and that's the same with rehab as well. People just want to go for that run. They want to they've got a sore Achilles, and they're like, well, I said, look, you want to run 1 kilometer because we've worked up to that. Don't run 5K. That's what all runners love to run, 5K. That's the bare minimum when a runner. You say, what is a runner? You go to a runner, what's a run? They go 5K. No, it's no less. So it's like, well, how long have you run for? I haven't run in 6 months. What are you going to do? I'm going to do 5K. You're like, oh, you're not doing 5K. Yeah. But in their head, unless I understand them, unless they trust me, unless there's a relationship built, I'm going to go, look, that's going to be 500 meters maybe. And that might be walking as well. And that's like hitting a runner in the face with a wet fish, So you've got to they have to be like going, well, I just had a really rough day and, someone's annoying me and running helps my mental health. I'm going, and my heel feels fine. I think it's cured. I'm pretty sure it's cured in the last week, which it hasn't done for 2 years, but it's definitely better now. I'm going to run 5K. And with tendon problems, it often can be feeling fine until they can't walk for 3 days after.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's just the same as dieting or exercise, strength work. They just want to make themselves feel good there and then. And how you manage that mindset in that moment of stress is something that, as I said, we talked about earlier, whether you do breathing techniques or you using apps or you start to invest in that side of things, then nothing you put your mind to, whether it's fitness, whether it's studying or job work or whatever, it ain't going to happen unless you manage that ability to.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a lot of the questions that we have do come back down to your mindset. They come back to how you're managing your mindset. What I always find really interesting is people can stick to diets, people can stick to training programs, but you ask them to do 10 minutes of meditation and it all they can't do it. It's impossible. They can't focus, and my question is, why is that? Why is that?
I know. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, I think because I think there's a pressure. Well, there's a stigma around, or not stigma. It's like anything there's always like, oh, well, you got to be, sitting there humming with your legs crossed. Yeah, no, a load of incense burning. No, but that's the thing surround, and that you find yourself, and that it's going to be the best thing ever. Because when you hear people who do meditation and get a buzz off it, they're like, it's like a drug.
Yeah,
they're like, it's unbelievable.
It is. I mean, when I say why is that, I mean, there's a reason. There's something going on in that person, and it's always the same. Like gaining weight, losing performance, not doing things, or having an addiction or whatever. They are symptoms of something else. They are always symptoms of something else. I did a video recently.
Subscribe, share, like.
No, on that, and it was more like, why are you overweight because you're unhappy? That's what it comes down to. People think, oh, they're unhappy because they're overweight. Actually, is it the other way around? Are they overweight because they're unhappy? And that's doesn't apply to everybody. But the fact is, it could be a massive change you need to make, or it could be a small change you need to make. But somewhere along the line, you're doing these habits because you're maybe not happy with something else. So people keep making themselves further unhappy by restricting their diets and doing programs they don't want to do, when actually, all they need to do is address that one thing. That could be they're not with the right partner. That could be they don't like their job. That could be they don't like their living situation. Whatever, it could be something going on.
It's too painful to go near.
And then when you meditate, guess what? You have to face that fear, and you don't want to.
So, and that's the thing. When I where I first started to kind of, because my dad was he was, my mum and dad were all really into alternative medicine kind of thing, or certainly approaches to like meditation and stuff like that. I wouldn't say that's alternative medicine, but it's that side of things. We did a lot of talk. He brought me to Tai Chi when I was like 13 and stuff like that, thinking I was going to a Bruce Lee school. So I was like, oh yeah, martial arts, got a nice one, right? Where's the punch bags? I was like, this is not Bruce Lee. But I actually remember at the time coming out, and it was good spending time with my dad. But there's 8 of us in my family, so it's like, you have to battle for the love. But you went there, and I was like going, right. So that was the first insight into being able to be aware of kind of getting away. Because I was like going, I was into football and, you know, all sorts of kind of more kind of physical stuff, and then this was just like slowing down and everything. And I'm like going, I don't mind this. I don't know why. So it took me a while. I was 14. So, but when I read more about it, you don't have to be very good at it. It's actually, it's nearly more benefit. You only need like a minute, 2 minutes. When they look at studies about changes in the brain as well, you're talking about like just consistent for about 8 to 12 weeks in some of the studies, like off the top of my head. It's 8 to 10 weeks of just breathing and just sitting there and concentrating on breathing, just in and out. So whether it's 2 seconds, 3 seconds in, now, you know, there's all different types of breathing techniques. Just doing that, you can get changes in your gray matter in your brain. So it's like, there's something changing, but the focus is, it doesn't matter. That's why the apps are quite good, because they talk you through, just follow the voice. And when my first time when I properly meditated first was when I had someone talking me through it. I was in a yoga class. A good friend of mine who's a physio and a yoga teacher, Kyla, she was, and I was like going, oh my God. And my wife used to do it because she's in mental health as well. When she talking, and just when my head was a bit busy, and she just talked me through your body, you know, like feeling in your arms, feeling that. And I thought, this ain't gonna work. Oh my God. I'm like totally relaxed. And I was coming out of Kyla's yoga going, I feel really, really, you know, really good. Like, and I don't know what. And it's like, you know, it's like I've just been given something, because I was just like, this is weird. This is Friday. It's 12 o'clock in the day, and I'm feeling pretty like, it's weird, isn't it? And it was just like, and all she did was talk me through the body in a yoga class. And I just lay there, and because she's telling me what to do and say and what to think about, it takes away all the noise. So it's finding that ability to take the noise away, whatever it is, to be able to then, because then afterwards your thoughts it seemed clearer for me anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
if that makes any sense. But
you don't have to spend hours and hours meditating.
No.
You're not a monk. You just need to have, you know. And I don't use the word meditation with clients. I just say a little bit of time on your own, you know, and actually just sitting in a chair with your eyes closed and just, you know, I look at it like, you know how like old school thing here, you have to defragment a computer. Do you know, do you know what I mean? Like a PC.
Yeah.
And it's something you can do that puts all the files back where they are, so that the computer can run more optimally. And that's a little bit how I see meditation. You sit there, and through the day, your thoughts and feelings get scattered around and moved around, and it becomes a little bit harder for you to sort of be optimal in your day-to-day living. And when you sit there with your eyes closed, it's like you're putting things back, you're organizing yourself so that you're ready for the day, you know. And actually, quite a lot of the time, I get a lot of inspiration from that, you know, when I'm just spending time. And it's amazing. You know, you get someone to do the hardest workout, the hardest diet, but you ask them to sit for 10 minutes with their eyes closed, and it's like torture. You know.
And it was just on that as well. It's like I've just started I used to run a lot. I used to play football, obviously, but then I used to run anyway. I just used to like it. And then I can't remember what happened. It was around the early, 2000 and maybe 12, 13. Got a lot more into weightlifting as well, because it was handier, and I didn't for the goals I had at the time, but also, I don't know if I got a little bit of a few niggles and stuff, and it just put me off it, and I just didn't run anymore. And then I was like, oh God, it's been like 6 years since I properly. And then every time I started doing it in the last few years, I get a bit of knee pain, and I wasn't following my own advice. I was running too far, too quickly, you know? Yeah, classic. Yeah. But then I was like, well, I don't really want to do this. This isn't, I'm getting sore, and actually, do I need to do this? No, I get my cardio somewhere else. So so I put it off again. Because of obviously the current situation, I kind of went, I'm going to go for some running. So I started doing the running. And during the run, actually, I felt really good. But I started getting ideas. I was like on my run, like I used to get halfway. It's always halfway between where I left the house and come back. And I'm like sprinting home to write down the idea. And I must have come out with 4, 5, 6 different things, put it down, really useful, clear thought. And I'd sit in my gym. I actually did a few videos, subscribe, like, share. I didn't know, they're on Instagram. But and I was just like going, it was a sweaty mess after run, but I'm going, I have to talk now, whether it was total rubbish, but it was just like, I just kind of went, I don't care if it helps anyone else. To be honest, selfishly there, I was like, oh, this is really helping me. Don't know what it was, and I was like, I missed running again, so I got back into that. And it's that in the shower or out on a run, when it's the same as meditation. I think that's why running is addictive. I think that's why lots of runners do running, and then when they don't, they're like, you've just removed my oxygen, because I deal with my shit on the run. And you know what I mean? And I think I just go into a nearly like a metronome state. It's relaxing. And I think that, so whether you can find, I saw a funny movie, I think called In Bruges, where he uses a gun. Have you seen that? And I think it's in that. And he's just doing the gun. He's just changing the gun and he's getting the barrel. It's something that he knows inside out, but he's just doing it repetitively. I think it's in that movie. And he's just filling it, and he knows everything about putting that. He can do it blindfolded. And that's the thing, it's doing a task or the same thing with breathing. It's just taking away the noise. And if you find something like that, whether it's sitting down or whether it's doing something else, start with something anyway. I think that's the key. Get into that, and then you can get to the more advanced stuff and transcendental meditation if you really want to go crack.
And it doesn't have to be a super long time, you know. 5 minutes is fine, you know. Even in some cases, you know. I read something, I can't remember what it was now, so that's not very helpful. But it was about transition.
I believe you.
Transitional meditations. So, like, for example, I'll do the school run in the morning, and I might find that stressful one morning. You know, the kids aren't behaving, they're not putting their shoes on, or whatever it is that often causes stress on the school run. And you have all that stress, and then most people, they take that stress to their next place where they work, and then they take that stress from work home. But having that moment of transitional meditation, I do the school run, and I just sit in my car, my eyes closed, and I put all of that stress away, because I'm about to go into a different situation, you know. And what I don't want to do is take out what happened with my kids on someone I work with, or I don't want to take out on my wife when I get home something that happened at work, you know. So you take that time in between transitions to sit for 1 minute and just let all that go, put it away, and then move on to the next situation. That's just 1 minute, you know, because you don't, you know, when you're frantic and you're doing a school run and you're late for work and before you know it, you know, it's just a whole. That's how I say have a bad day.
It's that it goes on to the next one. It's in that willpower instinct as well. You've only got so much willpower. It's a fuel gauge, you know, and it will run out by the end of the day, and it will run out on somebody, and usually somebody you care about, and that's used up pretty fast. So it's how you kind of continue to maintain that willpower through the day. And that's a book called The Willpower Instinct that I'd recommend people read if they're listening. The Shen Paradox and the Willpower Instinct, savage kind of insight into how your brain works on a daily basis, taking into some of the things you just said there as well. It's just that how you're managing it through the day, because you can. You know, when you hear people who manage their mindset, if you look at like the super mental health people, you know, like the Tony Robbins, you know, the guys you just think, oh my God, this is ridiculous. How you can't be that happy. I hate you. Really hate him.
But what I like about him is that he admits.
He's brilliant.
You know, he does.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. When you actually listen to his stuff, you'll see how he actually. It's not all about happiness at all. It's it's just about decisions and choices and
choices. That's the key word.
Choices.
It's been too many people walk through the day mindlessly. They're not mindful. They're not deliberate in their decision making. That's how you end up having 4 biscuits with a cup of tea, and then go, oh man, I wasn't going to have biscuits today. It's just it happens to everybody, you know. We go out and drink too many beers or whatever.
And if you plan it, you know, like I know when that's the other thing. It comes back to your other comment about the permission yesterday. It's like the permission you give yourself. So I'm going to go out with my brothers or my mates and stuff like that. And I'm going to go, right, well, I'm not going to put a limit of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to have a good time. Don't go out that much. So I'm not going to say I'm going to have 3 beers or 5 beers, because that's only going to lead to.
I hate that when people do that. They put a cap on the night. They go, oh, I'm only out till 10 o'clock. It's like,
I'm Irish, pal. You know, we don't do that. There's no cap. You don't. There's no caps. The only cap you do is put on your head. Nah. It's like the biggest fun killer I've ever heard. It's like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna. You're like going straight away. You're like going, oh right, do you want to go home now then? Because this is really killing my buzz. Because you just don't know. Sometimes I go in there going, yeah, I'm not really in for a big one, and then it turns out it's the best night ever. You know, whatever. It's not all about drinking, but yes, it is. So I've got lost my train of thought there on that one. But it's the I think. What were you just bang on about? Were you saying anything
about having permission to do things? You said.
Yeah. So because you have that permission, and then you plan in the next day. So you kind of go like, that is the plan for today, and you accept it and you get the guilt away. The next day, the plan is, I am going to be repped. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do this, but I've got to win something to get the motivation to build on the Monday.
Yeah.
So I plan in that. So I'm like going, at least if I go to the garage and skip for 2 minutes, if I go there and I might maybe do 10 minutes, who knows? The hangover mightn't be that bad, or I mightn't be that tired, and it turns into workout. What else am I going to do? I'm going to not, I'm going to be hungover, so the kids are likely to get a short-fused response to some things. So I've got to make sure that if I want to ever be allowed out again, but you have to plan it. You can't just think it's going to happen. Right. You have to be like, that's what I'm going to be. So you have to kind of like just have a word with yourself through the day as well. So the plan is, don't do that. Try and stick with this as the plan. And then when you get to Monday, it'll be grand again. Because on that Sunday, it's going to be, you're going to have that feeling, oh, I just want to eat cake. I just want to, lie down, and I don't want to do things. And that isn't going to be in line with the goal. So if I'm going to take the consequences of having a good time with my friends and going out drinking, I need to be able to then not make sure that takes me off the rails.
It's balance, isn't it? And it's like a lot of the questions that we haven't answered are based around psychology and mindset. And a lot of the time, it's just that is the work that people don't do, And that, I suppose if there was to ever be a principle of what we're talking about today, mindset underpins diet and activity. It always does.
And rehab.
And rehab. And again, like the biggest issue you have is not that you've given somebody exercises that haven't worked. It's that they've stopped doing them. That's an issue that you get, because at the end of the day, you're not always going to enjoy your workout. You're not always going to enjoy your food. And we have this society now where people think they have to enjoy everything. And sometimes you just got to do it because it needs doing, and that's not a great answer, but it is the answer.
Well, it's coming out more and more. You hear people, people I really respect online, like fun was always a big thing, can make it fun and playful and all that. And that's definitely important, but it can't be. The thing is people see it binary sometimes. It's like, right, well, it all has to be fucking fun then. Everything has to be fun and good and playful. And it's like, well, not always. Sometimes it has to be like, you got to do the work. It's hard and it's minging. And you ask any of the top, whether you go to the top or even to the middle, it's to get results. It takes this, and consistency is boring.
It's easy to do it. It's easy to do it when you've got nothing else to do. Yeah. But it's when you've got to try and fit it in your day, when you've got the children and you've got work. And it is hard, but at the end of the day, it's something that still needs doing, or you taper it down. So some days I'm really up for it. I go in the gym and I'm like, I can't wait to smash this. And I have a crap session. I'm really annoyed at myself. And some days I really don't want to train, and I drag myself in the gym, and it's the best session I've ever had. There's no rhyme or reason to that. It's just, it is what it is, and you just got to you've got to accept them both, If you're going to accept the awesome session, you have to accept the crap one too. And you can't be too hard on yourself about
that. So it's the choice then, is do I want to continue with this? And is that goal, that want, that thing that I've set myself really what you want? Yeah. Because I've set things that I want. I've set things that I want to do. And then I've gone, I actually don't really want that. So I've changed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure I want that. I'm like going, if I'm pretty sure if I wanted that, I would have. That's why and goals can change. I think that's the other thing about goals. They need to be fairly flexible. You can be nice to, I don't know if it's a similar thing to you, but I want to keep my body fat low at the moment. And that's just one of the goals I want to do. So so part of my training is to do that. So I've got that in my head, and actually I was kind of going, do I really want that? So then I kind of went, well, I tell you what, 2-3 weeks in, I'll know. Because 2 or 3 weeks, which is right now.
Nice way to look at it. I like that.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks in now, I'm going, I definitely want it. I'm definitely wanting it, because I'm turning up now. I'm turning up every night. And I'm kind of like, even on the nights when I fall asleep on the kid's floor, if he's not gone to sleep or something, I've fallen asleep and woke up and it's like 9 o'clock and I'm like, oh my God. And you just want to go back to sleep. And then I'm just like, but actually what's happened is I've gone up and gone, no, got my session on. Cool, right. And actually, weirdly then, so I know then, I said, because normally, and in the last few months, I haven't been feeling that, because I hadn't planned anything out. I hadn't got the goal to get excited about it. And just on that point, which has linked me back to some accountability stuff, which when I did all those daft 100 things a day for a month, I did press ups and all that kind of stuff. Well, that was another good kind of, I like things like that, because it made me kind of go, well, I train every day anyway. And this was just something that you had to put on a video. Now, whether people liked it or not or anything, I can give a monkeys. It was just the fact that it was going on there. I was reporting to a particular group of people, but it was great to have something there, even though that wasn't a goal that I was going to do the 100 or whatever. It was just doing it.
There's an element of accountability there, isn't there?
Yeah, which kind of gave me a buzz, weirdly.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let down people online that I could have. I was just like, well, I don't care, whatever. Yeah, you're going to give me grief. Doesn't matter. See ya. It doesn't matter. So it didn't matter, but it mattered because then I was getting excited by the contest. To kind of like the challenge to go, no, I ain't going to give up for a month. Yeah, I'm not going to give up for a month.
That's why I always say to people, like, if you have to do cardio or whatever, because I'm a big believer that, you know, clients can do cardio on their own. So if they want to go for a run, there's, you know, no point paying me to run next to you. That doesn't make sense, you know.
Okay. So obviously, me and Johnny ignored all the questions except for one. So Charlie looked in because he got in there first. Well, he might have done. It came up on the Instagram feed that way anyway. So Charlie, hopefully you found that useful. And I think there is looking at the other questions. There's definitely some carryover. So, but we are going to because this was so amazing. And I did really enjoy this. It was really cool, and I think it covered a lot of things that are really, really important to us and in our training and how we coach and stuff. So, but I want to answer the rest of the questions because some of them are really cool as well, and they'll dive into some more stuff. So we will do another one definitely and get into those questions. So apologies for the guys who we didn't answer, but we will be answering more next time.
Yep.
Anything else to say, my friend?
Not really. It's been fun, and look forward to doing it again. And apologies to the people that we didn't get around to answering the questions. They're great questions, and I look forward to answering them. But I mean, I just go back to what we said originally. A lot of the stuff that people want to progress on comes down to training your mindset and changing your perspective. And although you might not think it makes a big difference, it really, 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 really will. You know, if you go into any sport without the right mindset, you're going a step behind, because anyone that's performing at a high level, they're working on their mindset. I can guarantee you they are. You know, and they might not be talking about it, but they are working on their mindset.
You just have to look at any of the top, like even if you just skim the top, the Jordans, the Tiger Woods, the Conor McGregors, the whatever, you name it, whatever sport you want to do, you know, Michael Johnson, all these people, you know, even, you know, Tony Robbins, like any side of things, business, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, your man, the lunatic, what's the guy who likes the electric cars, Elon Musk, you know, all these guys. If you read enough of these guys, like I love reading all about these guys, and they've got and women as well. I have read about women saying, like, I'm just reading about men there, obviously, which is typical of the way the world is. But so when you read about successful women or men, they all have very similar traits in that, you know, of what we've been talking about. They just are better at sticking to it. Now, they sacrifice an awful lot, and often, and to be honest, when you read the stories, they sacrifice their family, I think, in relationships the most. I think that they have to, because, you know, the way it is. So sometimes I always think it is, I'm happy that I'm not in that world, because I get more of a buzz from a family situation. So, but like, you know, that's just my buzz, and not everyone is up to that. And some people do love the work more than anything else, and that's just the way they've developed, and that's grand. But if you want all of it, you want to be the fittest, if you want to have the best family and you want to have the best work, you're going to get disappointed. There's going to be sacrifices on one of those things, 100%. And so you know, that's the other pressure that goes out. The world pumps out that you need to be good at them all. But unfortunately, that's not going to be happening. And when it comes to rehab, sometimes it's a bit like, look, if rehab is if you can't walk down the street, you know, your rehab is going to have to go up in your life, you know, and other things, because you can't walk. That means you can't work. That means you can't look after your kids. So they're linked both together. So that has to now take more of the priority. And once that kind of comes down again, when you get back walking, then you can go back to the other two, but there will be sacrifices. There will be ups and downs at all of those three things, and that's something we might talk about again next time. But because we'll end up ranting again. But it's great, and I think if anyone watches this and wants other questions regarding training or rehab,
we will equally ignore them questions too.
We'll ignore them and never do them.
And I'll redeem myself. The thing I was saying at the beginning about that I lost my train of thought on, where I said telling somebody to eat less, do more, is like telling somebody that came second in a race they should have run faster. That's what I was trying to say. So there you go. Yeah, there you go. I'm not an idiot.
Otherwise, you were having so many unlikes and unshares and unsubscribes there. You know, you were just, you know what I mean? You've just redeemed yourself.
Well, I don't know.
You ended with a really good one. I wish I had something clever to say now. All right.
Anyway,
all right. Listen,
great to talk
we'll
to you,
leave it at
mate.
that, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, nice one.
Cool, bud.